What is up, guys? So Sports back again with another video, and in today's video I have 3 underrated and 3 overrated teams heading into the 2019 to 2020 NFL season. I did this video last time for the NBA and I thought it would just make sense for me to do this for the NFL also. But getting into it, I'm gonna have like the same type of structure that I did for an NBA video, as in for overrated teams. I think it is teams that are, overhyped going into this next season that I believe won't perform to what people are saying they will. And of course, underrated are teams that I believe will exceed expectations, or teams that are being counted out by people early on. So starting off, let's do the overrated list first. Now the first team I want to talk about is the Bears. Now, before Bears fans or whatever attack me for this, I don't think the team as a whole is overrated. I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders. Not with a quarterback like Mitchell Trubisky. He did have, a good game last year in the divisional round, or I believe it was the wild card round actually, against the Eagles, but ultimately they had lost. And I don't know. I just don't really see it for the Bears. I think their defense is great. They have a great defense. It's just the offense that I'm scared of. And I do think you need a great offense to win a Super Bowl nowadays. I don't know. I just think Mitchell Trubisky, I'm still kind of questioning him, as opposed to maybe a guy like Jared Goff. Because with Mitchell Trubisky, they don't have, the same offense or the same offensive weapons that a team like the Rams has, or a team like the Jets even. The Jets have, good receivers, good running backs, counteract Sam Darnold being, not too good. Or, the Rams have a good running back, great receivers, great coach to counteract, Jared Goff being bad. And, the Bears do have good receivers, Anthony Miller and Allen Robinson, but they aren't the same as the receivers on the Rams or the Jets. And their running back also isn't the same thing as a Todd Gurley or Le'Veon Bell. Those are two drastic differences, but this is just my opinion. I think they'll still be a playoff team. I just don't know if they'll be, a Super Bowl team as people are making it out to be. So that's why I believe they're overrated. Next team is the 49ers. The 49ers, year in and year out, always get people to call them a playoff team and stuff, and they always do bad. Last year, you could say that it was Jimmy Garoppolo being injured. But I mean, even to start off the season when Jimmy Garoppolo was playing, they weren't good at all. I just think Richard Sherman is old now. He's coming off an Achilles injury. Their receivers, I don't know. I think Kyle Shanahan is kind of overrated as a coach. He hasn't really done anything since he's gotten that coaching job. I think he's best suited as an offensive coordinator. I don't think his best bet is a coach. But, I mean, we'll see what happens this season. I mean, their wide receivers, they're good. You have Marquise Goodwin and Dante Pettis. And I believe you drafted some guys. I forget their names, but offensive line is also good. Tight end, of course, George Kittle, one of the best tight ends in the game right now. The running backs, they just signed Tevin Coleman, so they have Matt Breida, Tevin Coleman, and Jerick McKinnon. So you have that three-headed monster there, and I'm pretty sure they have one more, but I'm not really sure. Jimmy G, he was good for the 6 games before when he first got traded, to the Niners. He was pretty good. He got that extension. Didn't really do so well last year. I don't know. I feel like he's kind of an average quarterback. I don't know if he is going to exceed expectations. And then that defense, their cornerback situation, like I said, Richard Sherman is probably their best cornerback. He's coming off an Achilles injury, and he's pretty old. He's getting up there in age. Their safeties, I don't know. Overall that team is kind of We'll see what Nick Bosa can do for them, but I don't know. I don't really think they'll make the playoffs. That's just my opinion, but that's my opinion on the Niners. And the last overrated team that I have are the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, people are still saying they're going to win their division. I doubt it. With the Ravens and the Browns all being, I think, head and shoulders better than they are, I just don't see it. And not even to mention, they lost the best receiver they've had probably in franchise history in Antonio Brown. And they lost, could you even say the best running back in franchise history? I don't know. I don't want to disrespect the running backs that they've had in the past, but Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown are really big, losses. Obviously you have James Conner and Juju Smith to back those guys up, but James Conner, he was injured a lot last year, so I don't know how we'll be able to come back from those injuries. And Juju, I don't know, could you say that, he was successful because, Antonio Brown was getting double teams, and then now he'll be the one getting double teams. We'll see. Their offensive line is still good. It's probably one of the best in football. Big Ben, now that's a question. Is he going to start being on a decline? People like to talk about how Big Ben, had the most passing yards last year, but he had the most attempts, and, he turned the ball over the most. So, that goes in itself. And then their defense is, their secondary, I don't know if I like their secondary. Their secondary is kind of, Their linebacking core and their defensive line is good, but that secondary just was holding them back. And like I said earlier, with the Ravens and the Browns getting, so much better, I just don't see them winning the division. I just don't see it. But that's going to do it for the overrated teams. Let me know if, you would change anything from that, if you would add a team. But moving on to the underrated teams now, the first thing I want to talk about is the Bills. Now, the Bills, I think they're going to have a good defensive season. They've made a lot of acquisitions and a lot of changes to their defense. I mean, this offseason was probably a top offseason for them. They made a lot of great moves to surround, what's his name? Josh Allen, with some talent. That's great to see. Just naming some of their moves. Some of the recent moves haven't really been all that, but I mean, you re-signed Jerry Hughes, which is great. He's been a staple on your team for a long time now, so you like to see that. You drafted Al Oliver. I like that pick a lot. You drafted Cody Ford, which I thought was a great pick for you guys. Just great value. I believe you got him in the second round also, so just great things like that. They had a pretty good draft, I like to say. But yeah, I mean, overall, we'll see what they can do. We signed TJ Yeldon, who's a serviceable back. Eli Harold is a question mark. I don't know how much he can give you right now. You signed Quentin Spain from the Titans, I believe. He should be decent for you. EJ Gaines is okay. You signed Cole Beasley from the Cowboys. John Brown, who I believe was on the Ravens last season. And Tyler Kroft, Mitch Morse. Re-signing Mitch Morse at that. And then you have, what's his name? Oh my goodness, what's his name? His name is splitting my mind. Zay Jones, Zay Jones, I believe, is probably the most underrated wide receiver, if not the one of the most underrated wide receivers in the game right now. I think he's going to have a great season this next upcoming year, and I'm excited to see. I mean, Zay Jones, Cole Beasley, John Brown. You have a lot of speed, a lot of guys who can catch the ball well. And then you have LaShawn McCoy. Hopefully he can return back to, his previous form. I don't know if last year was injured or something. I think he was contemplating retirement, but I don't know. We'll see what he'll be able to do. Frank Gore, that backfield would have been amazing like 5 or 7 years ago, but now we'll see how much they can give you. Tyler Kroft, just getting these weapons for Josh Allen, which I like. Hopefully Josh Allen can have an improved year. You're improving that offensive line, and you have that great defense, pairing those young guys that you got in Ed Oliver, who can hopefully give you something this year. Jadavius White, you have that great safety tandem in Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. I'm excited for the season for them, and I think they'll have a successful season. I don't know if they'll be making the playoffs, but you can still have a successful season without making the playoffs. So, yeah, we'll see what they do. And the next team I want to talk about is the Panthers. Now, the Panthers are in my division, my favorite team's division. The Saints, if you didn't know, is my favorite team. They're in the NFC South. And a lot of reports that I see is that the NFC South is a two-man race, the Falcons and the Saints. I believe the Panthers should be in that race. But for me, it all depends on how Cam Newton comes back. They, fixed that O-line up. They had a great draft, you made a lot of moves. I don't know. I just think, maybe, I'm talking like, maybe it's like, oh, they won't be that good. I think last year was a weird year for them. They started out amazing. And then they ended it off bad. I think that had to do with, Cam Newton's injury. But you signed Darrell Williams, who I believe, what was he? Oh, no, you re-signed him. You signed him. He's a good tackle. His problem is that he's always injured and stuff. You signed Bruce Irving, which was a great move in my opinion. Matt Paradis, you steal him from the Broncos, a great center in my opinion. He's a veteran center who will just bolster up that offensive line. I don't know. I just like it. And their draft was good. If I can just go to their draft real quickly. Let me see their draft. But I mean, besides that, I think, you signed Chris Hogan. Greg Olsen, reports were coming out that he was, not going to resign, or he was going to retire and pursue, I don't know, go to the NFL Network, be an NFL host, but, he's coming back. Shaq Thompson is a good linebacker. I mean, they have Eric Reed, great re-signing. Their defense is amazing. As long as you have Luke Kuechly, of course, you're going to be great. And that's that. And then on offense, I think the biggest question mark is how can Cam Newton come back? If he's going to come back and play, with that, I think he's tore his shoulder or something, but speaking of their draft, you take Byron Burns, an edge player, to hopefully replace Julius Peppers. I doubt he'll have the same career as Julius Peppers, but hopefully he can give you what Julius Pepper gave you. Even last year, Julius Pepper was pretty good. Greg Little, another tackle. You're just rounding out that offensive line, and that's what you love to see. You want to protect Cam Newton. He's your star quarterback. You take Will Greer, which is kind of an interesting one, but hopefully it'll, make Cam Newton play more, because now you're thinking, before their backups were who? Derek Anderson. They had a backup last year. I forget. They weren't anything, they didn't really spend much time on backups. Now it's a question mark, and it's an insurance policy if Cam Newton does get injured or potentially want to trade him, which I doubt they will do. Christian Miller, which is edge. This just made a lot of great moves. Tackle and D-line, that's great. I personally do think they'll be the second best team in NFC South, and I can definitely see them making the playoffs. Cam Newton, Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Greg Olsen, if he can possibly stay healthy, that improved offensive line and defensive line, Luke Kuechly, Shaq Thompson, and then you have Dante Jackson, who you drafted last year to be your cornerback, Eric Reed. That team is amazing, on paper at least. We'll see what they can do on the field, but moving on to the last team, the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions had an interesting offseason, I want to say. Going to the draft, I thought they made a weird pick, in my opinion, drafting TJ. I don't even know how to say his last name. Is it Hawkinson? I believe with the 8th pick. I don't know. I think that was kind of a reach in my eyes, but we'll see if it can pan out. He does have some Gronk type comparisons, so we'll see if he can be that for you. And then the rest of the draft was kind of, you draft linebacker Talani Tavi. Hopefully he can be something for you. Isaac Nauta in the 7th round was a great value pick in my eyes. But yeah, we'll probably see some 2 tight end sets from them with him, and I forget who else they did. They signed another tight end. I think it was Jesse James. So yeah, we'll see some 2 tight end sets from him. And then you have Keyshawn Johnson. You have Kenny Galladay. You have Marvin Jones on offense. That offensive line is okay. So hopefully you can, have that. And then talking about their defense, you traded for Snacks Harrison last mid-season. He's a great 3-tech. He's probably the best 3-tech D-tackle in the league. So you like to see that. But yeah, overall, you have Darius Slay still, Trey Flowers, who you stole from the Patriots. You'd like to see that? That's an amazing move. Danny Amendola also you stole from the Patriots. I don't know was Danny Amendola on the Patriots last year. I believe he was on the Dolphins last year, and then he stole them, something like that. CJ Anderson, who had a great playoffs, made a lot of great moves. And I think with that, I don't know if they'll make the playoffs. Considering how tough that division that their team is in. That's a division that possibly all teams can make the playoffs. So I don't know if they'll be able to do that, but again, like I said, for the Bills, you can have a successful season and not make the playoffs. I think I could possibly see them going 9-7 or 10-6. Detroit, they haven't had the best of luck as of lately. They've always been a team that has had these great players in Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders, and have not been able to do anything with them. Hopefully they can change that, that way that they're talked about, but I don't know. They can definitely have a good season, but that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy. It's So Sports, and I'm out. Peace.